Hello and welcome to the Shinybees podcast, a podcast for those who like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. I'm your host Jo Millmine and this is episode 80. Relax, don't do it. Hello and welcome into the show. I hope you are well since last time I saw you. I have recovered somewhat from my debilitating illness that involved basically sleeping in a fever-induced coma for a couple of days in bed. I was really quite sick, which is why the podcast went on a short break whilst I recovered, and I'll chat more about that later. I think I've recovered now. I am having some concentration issues. And I've just spent half an hour trying to work out why the sound on my microphone was so muffled and fiddling with every knob on it, only to realise that I had the microphone on cardioid and it was backed front, which is why it sounded a bit like I was in the next room. So, although I am saying that I am kind of back in the game, do expect the odd comedy moment during this episode. So we'll be keeping this episode fairly short and sweet and reasonably low tariff, if you will, just whilst we get back into the swing of things with the show. And because there aren't that many things to talk about when you've been in bed ill for a couple of weeks. And it would appear I'm not the only one that has been unwell. So I'm going to start with a shout out to Louise Tilbrook, sock maestro and a current ill person who's also been taken down by this evil lurgy that my mum has decided is because it's not been cold enough. So there are too many germs around and everyone has been getting quite bad flu as a result of that. I haven't had flu for years. And I can remember the only two times I have had flu, one of which was just before I got married. Thank goodness for MAC makeup because I looked like an extra from Thriller before I put the makeup on. And that was 8 years ago. And the other time I was about 6 and I was going to a Christmas party. Both times it's been at Christmas. I was going to a Christmas party and my dad's work used to have a Christmas party for the kids every year. It was called, I don't know if it was called Hansel's at that time, but we all used to go to this Christmas party. Some of my friends from school went as well because their dad worked in the same factory. And I'd been really excited. I had this beautiful new black and white checked skirt with this floofy petticoat underneath it. And I had a little top and I had a beautiful white cardigan. And these socks that my mum had bought, and they had musical notes on them and little bells. Very excited about my cash new outfit. And I remember just being absolutely hideously ill the whole time, and there were pictures of me looking like a proper little sad sack, getting this dog. It was like a pound puppy, but it wasn't a pound puppy, it was like a cheaper version of a pound puppy. And we stood on the stage with Father Christmas raging, basically. I was in no mood for Wizard or anything else because I was really quite sick. So it was a bit of a shocker for me to get ill and to be so ill that I had to get in bed. I lost my voice, couldn't get upstairs and downstairs, couldn't breathe properly, lots of coughing, still have a cough, very tired, completely out of it, didn't eat for a week, which is most unlike me. It was a bit crazy, so I'm very lucky that my friend Sal and my mum came to look after me and take the kids away until Millie returned from being away. So it's been crazy, and there's a lot of people been really quite ill, so Tillers, I hope you get well soon, my lovely. Also a shout out to Small Smiley, Michelle, who, bless her, went on a skiing trip into the Alps and managed to break a leg, 3 bones in a leg. Well, she didn't actually go to the Alps. What happened was she was outside in the shed, putting the washing in the tumble dryer, and she slipped and broke like 3 bones, open fracture, hospital for 2 weeks. And not been able to do anything weight bearing for another 8 weeks after that. How crazy is that? Let this be a lesson to you. Don't do the tumble drying. Contract that out. You could break your leg. So bless her, she's not had the best of times. She's been a bit kind of stare crazy. So hopefully the leg will get better soon for you, Michelle. And also, thank you to those of you that sent me messages to cheer me up whilst I was sick. In particular, Katie Pricey, who sent me a comedy picture of 4 men in crazy crochet, which I did very much enjoy. And to Porter Goblin, who, despite the fact I couldn't knit, I was that ill. I thought I was going to die. Couldn't knit. She sent me a lovely pattern to knit when I got better, a Boo Knits pattern, Snow Angel. So I'm very excited about that. So thank you to you. It's very kind of you. And thank you to all of you who said, take your time when you come back. We'll wait for you. I don't like to disappoint you. So I wanted to get back and chatting to you again. But your well wishes are very heartfelt and very gratefully received by me. Now, the title of this episode is Relax, and that is twofold for 2 reasons. Number one, Zoolander 2 is coming out on the 12th. Is it 12th of February? Zoolander 2. Love Zoolander 1. One of my favourite films of all time. I think it's hilarious. Some people don't. Some people don't get it. I think it's comedy. I think it's brilliant. I a bit love Ben Stiller, and every time I watch it, you just notice another gag in it that you didn't notice before. I must have seen it a million times. Love it. Absolutely love Zoolander. Get my kids to do Blue Steel and Magnum and take pictures of them because it's funny. And I was really excited that Zoolander 2 was going to come out. So I thought that'd be an amazing pattern pick. There's got to be an orange mocha frappuccino pattern, right? There's got to be a Zoolander themed pattern. You can't tell me there isn't a Derek, Zoolander, amigurumi. Well, I'm telling you now there isn't. Or at least not one that's called Zoolander. There are no Zoolander themed patterns on Ravelry. 6 million people and no one's done a bloody Zoolander themed pattern. I mean, how bad is that? I think orange mocha frappuccino would be a great colourway for some hand-dyed yarn. In fact, I've mentally planned an entire range of colourways based on Zoolander for my fictional dye studio that I don't yet have and probably will never open. But I've planned the colours and I've planned all the different names for them. Like, I'm going to have a colour called Derelict, and the Zoolander colour would be green and black, and orange mocha frappuccino would be a really cool kind of orange silk and merino blend. I've gone that far with it. I have gone into fibre content, and obviously there would be a blue steel as well, and Hansel. There's a So Hot Right Now colourway and a Hansel colourway. There's loads that I've planned, and I can't help but laugh every time he says balls models. Hilarious. Anyway, I also planned an entire range of Alan Partridge themed colourways, including Cockpiss Partridge, bang goes the clean rating, that's a lovely kind of like chartreusey mustardy yellow. And I was disappointed to find there was no Derek Zoolander or indeed Hansel or anyone else amigurumis or any other pattern on Ravelry. So I don't really know what we need to do about that. And I feel that I need a Derek amigurumi. I think it would be hilarious. I could put them on my desk. A Derek and Hansel. Maybe there's a way I could bodge another. If I could crochet, there would be a way that I could bodge, I'm sure, another sort of slightly similar amigurumi and make it into a Derek and a Hansel, I'm sure. But yeah, that was part of the random trail of thought that got me to the title of today's episode. No drugs were involved, surprisingly, in that. And the other one was when I was convalescing, shall we say, and I was in bed with the skein of The English Gentleman by Countess Blaze. It doesn't matter, I can't knit, I can still get in bed with The English Gentleman. And I was thinking about how I'd found myself in such a pickle. Because I think it's good. It's, I was in the military. We do like to debrief everything that happens. We do like to look back at it and go, well, exactly how did we end up doing what we did? And what could we have done better, basically? And it's a habit that I still have to this day. So I was sat in bed debriefing myself, because I couldn't knit because I was too ill, about exactly how I managed to end up in bed for a week. And it was quite obvious that it was because I had been indeed caning it. Not on the razzle, disappointingly, out dancing and drinking because I have 2 small children and my tolerance for gin is far lower than it was in my 20s. But caning it at life in general. Now, I'm pretty sure that quite a few of you will identify with the concept of caning it a bit at life. And after moving house and not sleeping properly for a couple of months, worry, the house having so many problems, there was just a lot of stuff going on. Because I'm quite good at not caning the work so much. I know how much work my kind of little creative brain can handle, and I don't tend to take on as much work, and this will be again familiar with a lot of you, taking on far too many of other people's monkeys. So someone needs some help. Oh, I'll help you with that. Oh, I'll do that for you. Oh, I'll do that with you. Yeah, it's okay. I can just start renovations on a house that I've just moved into. It's fine. Doesn't matter if my husband's away. I can rock all this new school, new nursery, everything. Crazy. And having the privilege of working with a lot of people in the industry, you do work incredibly hard. And a lot of you I know you aren't in the industry or don't work for yourself. You work for someone else. But again, you are kicking the backside out of it. This is just kind of my message to you. Relax. Relax. Don't do it when you want to get to it. Relax. Don't do it. He's going to hit the president of Micronesia. I'm not suggesting you're going to kill the president of Micronesia if you don't chill out a bit, but just have a think about it. There were several warning signs that I was going to come crashing to a Lemsip-induced sticky end in the weeks leading up to getting ill. And, I think we all do it. Christmas is a busy time. January, it's all about new start. Let's do this. Let's do that. And maybe we should just chill out and watch some Zoolander, drink an orange mocha frappuccino and try not to cane it quite so hard. So, not entirely sure I ended up kind of reliving the entire fight scene of Zoolander there. I do love Zoolander. If you haven't watched it, do go and watch it. I might start a thread in the group just so we can talk about Zoolander. I love like a Zoolander Cal. If there are any patterns for Zoolander, we could have a Zoolander Cal, I reckon. There might be some tenuous links we can get in there. I might even just design a shawl, probably called Orange Mocha Frappuccino. Anyway, it's time to move on a little bit, I think. And let me know if you're going to watch Zoolander. But we shall crack into Enabler's Corner. So this week's Enabler's Corner is entirely inspired by Curious Helen of the Curious Handmade podcast. I always call her Curious Helen. I'm sure she's a little bit curious, but her first name's not Curious. It sounds like a rapper. By Helen Stewart of Curious Handmade and Paula of the Knitting Pipeline podcast. Both of them I've recently mentioned, because I was listening to a lot of podcasts when I was in bed. Both recently mentioned that the Sox Therapist, Patty Joy, is currently fighting breast cancer and is selling her pattern, and I can never say this, I'm going to have to concentrate and nod my head like a child learning to read. Fish, lips, kiss, heel pattern. Yeah, that's right. I had to double check the notes. I can never say that. I've never knitted it because I can't say it. She is trying to save up some money to go and get all of her family together. I think she's got stage 3 cancer, so it's quite bad. And I'm enabling you to go and buy a copy of the pattern, because if that was me, I'd want to go see my family, and it's a pattern you can always use, and the things I've heard about it are really good. So I'm going to open a thread in the group on Ravelry, and the first 10 people who put their name in the group, I will send you a copy of the Fish, Lips, Kiss, heel pattern. See, I didn't know my head then. I couldn't get it out. So the first 10 people who reply to that, I'll send you one for free. And if anyone else wants to join in with that, feel free to do so. But it's a nice way just to share a bit of knitty love with one of the knitty community and get another sock heel in the process. Bit of a no-brainer, really. So that is the Fish Lips Kiss heel. I wish you changed the name of it. Patterned by Patty Joy. Give it away now. I'm feeling a bit musical today. I have a new giveaway for you. I will draw the giveaway for Anne Kingston's book this week. And in the meantime, I have a new giveaway for you. And that is for a pair of tickets to Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Now, I know some of you are probably not going to be able to make it because it's a little bit far. But if you are considering to go, I have a pair of tickets that I would like to give away. And I thought I will do it this week before you all go rushing and buying your tickets. And hopefully you'll be lucky, you'll win. So it's a bit like a game of I Went to the Market. So to enter, you need to go to the group on Ravelry, as always. And in the thread for the giveaway, you need to say, I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival and I bought, and whatever it was that you bought. You can make it up. It's not real. You don't have to recite everyone else's answers before you, although that could be quite funny. You don't need to memorise everyone's answers before you, but it's just a bit of fun to give away a set of tickets for Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So head on over to the group on Ravelry to take part in that, and look out next week for all those of you that are listening that can't make it. I'll have another giveaway for you guys next week. Speaking of Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I'm not going to kick the backside out of it, because I know some of you are not going, and it would really bug me if I wasn't, and I kept going on about it. But I will be attending Edinburgh Yarn Festival this year. It is being held at the Corn Exchange in Edinburgh. You can find all the details at edinyarnfest.com. But I will be in the podcast lounge between 12:30 and 2 for the podcast meetup on both days, Friday and Saturday. Now, my birthday is the 18th of March, and this is happening over basically my birthday weekend. So I'll be in a very good mood. So come and say hello to me. If you see me wandering past, not in the podcast lounge, please do stop me and say hello. Don't hide from me like the naughty people at Yarndale, because I will find you, I will hunt you down, and as soon as you change your avatar away from a dog or cat, I'll know and I'll find you. So please do come and say hello. I am going to be doing a session in the podcast lounge on Friday at 2 p.m. to do with businessy type stuff. More details will be available on that in the next couple of weeks. I'm just trying to decide which of the two subjects I'd like to talk about. And on this Saturday at 2 p.m, which again is straight after the meetup, I'm going to be doing a little drop-in session. It's essentially, I'll be there. I'll have a cup of tea of some description. Hopefully they'll have Rooibos. And if you've got any questions about life, the universe or anything, or generally something to do with business would be helpful. But life, the universe and everything is fine too. You can come and find me, and basically it's a bit of brain picking session for you for an hour. I'll be around to help you with any stuff that you want help with, really. So that is Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I'll put a thread in the group. Please do let me know if you're going, because I would love to meet, especially if there's any of you that I've never met in person before. I would love to say, and I really do love saying hello, so don't be surprised if I kind of fling my arms around you. If you're a little bit socially awkward or don't like people touching you, you might want to warn me in advance, because I can't help it. I'm one of those crazy, overexcitable, huggy people. Not like a spaniel, but, not far off. I will be there, and I'd love to say hello. So that's Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and it's the 17th and 18th of March. So Wippin Piccaddilly is going to form most, apart from the random Zoolander and Red Hot Chili Peppers love, it's going to form most of the chatter today, because, like I said, I need something quite relaxing and quiet for the first episode back, because having listened back to previous segments already, I'm obviously teetering on the edge of getting a little bit overexcited. So Wippin Piccaddilly is for you guys, and in this section I discuss stuff that I have been knitting. Not done one for a while because I never really seem to get enough knitting done. But I'm going to stop complaining about my lack of knitting time. I'm going to stop complaining about time altogether. That's a chat for another podcast. I've been listening to Audible audiobooks since I got sick because my eyes were funny. I couldn't look at anything. So I started to listen to a podcast, started to re-listen to Electric Sheep, which if you've not listened to her for a while, it's been... The last time I really listened to it was before the Beast was born, so it's nearly 5 years, and she got me through a lot of baby grow ironing, and she was one of the first kind of podcasts that I got into. She's not done anything new for a long time, but the stuff is still there. You can find it on Stitcher Radio, and I've started to re-listen to some of her stuff. She's very funny, and I heartily encourage you to go back and do the same. But the sheep aside, I have been indulging in a little bit of knitting. So first up, I have been working on my Owligan cardigan, which is a pattern by Kate Davies. It's a rework of her owl's pattern into a cardigan, but it's done on 9mm needles. I've talked about it on the podcast before. It was meant to be a 24-hour knit. It's the most painfully long knit I've ever done in my life, and I'm knitting it in Nulanic Chunky in the colourway Limestone, which I'm enjoying the yarn. People say it's quite rustic, but I'm not really feeling it to be that rustic, to be honest with you. And it's super warm, it's held double. And I've just got to the part where you split for the arms now. The pattern is really well written, and it is really clear to follow, as is typical of a lot of Kate's patterns. But I'm not enjoying the knitting, and that is because my hands are not big enough to knit 9mm needles with chunky wool held double. So I'm struggling on with it because I know it will be nice when it's finished, but I'm not motivated to do it. So all of my previous advice about knitting goals and getting stuff done is kind of going out of the window a little bit. But I'm just pushing on anyway. I'm sure I will get there if I just get my head down and do it, essentially. It's just a case of employing a little bit of focus so it doesn't drag on longer than it needs to. It makes it sound really bad. I don't want to be too negative about it because it's a good pattern and it looks nice and the fabric's good and everything. It's just, and a few people have said this to me, it is really hard work to knit it because it's just really big knitting, and a lot of us are just not used to knitting with that size of wool and that size of needle. So that is Owligan by Kate Davies, who won the Micro Business of the Year award that I mentioned the other week, which I was very, very pleased about. Very excited. Knitting businesses can be real businesses too, you know. So onward to, love her, Boo Knits, knitting Voodoo by Boo Knits, which was her last mystery knit along, which was around autumn of 2015. I was gifted this pattern by my friend Sal, and I'm knitting it in Travel Knitter Tanami 4-ply, which is 50% baby camel and 50% silk. It is in the colourway Stromboli. It was a special edition for the Golden Skein, and I have 2 of them, and it pleases me no end. I've got a massive red crush on Travel Knitter, as you all know already, and the Tanami 4-ply base is glorious to knit with. It's very soft and slidey, and it's going to be beautiful when it's done. I'm already onto the beads. I love beaded knitting. I know some people don't like the stop-start of it, but I like knitting to the next bead. I get really excited about knitting to the next bead and putting them on. I just think it's so clever, and I enjoy the way it looks so much and how clever it is. You can use a little crochet hook and get it on. I know it's dead basic, but I just find it really clever. So I'm on the second chart of that. I really love the way that she writes patterns, particularly the mystery ones, because they're already split up into, 3 or 4 weeks of clues for the mystery knit along. It just kind of, the segmentation of it makes it really easy to follow. And I always find that I feel like, oh wow, I'm already that far through. Makes it feel like you're going faster than maybe you are because of the way that the pattern is structured in these different little chart 1, chart 2, chart 3 how they've been released for the mystery knit along. So definitely a designer that I would recommend, and someone that I think has patterns for beginners as well, or new to knitting. She does have some simpler patterns, and even the lace ones are not difficult to follow as long as you do what she says when it comes to the stitch markers, to make sure that you're getting the right number of stitches between each stitch marker, basically. She does have a new mystery knit along for those that are Boo fans. I know a few of you hung around after her interview in episode 70. You can go and listen to her. She's absolutely lovely. She has a new mystery knit along starting on the 1st of April called Dance Macabre. So could be a really interesting one. I'm trying not to get sucked in, but I really want to do one of her mystery knit alongs just to see what it's like and do it at the same time as everyone else, because I do really enjoy her patterns. So that is Voodoo by Boo Knits, and the last one is like my travel project at the moment. It's the penguin socks. These are a pair of Afterthought heel socks that I'm knitting for Millie. They've been done in the Scrumptious Pearl Stripe Me Up yarn, which is 80% merino superwash and 20% nylon. This was a special colourway for the Golden Skein again for the winter 2015 Two Penguins Club. Now, I've been made very aware by one of my lovely listeners in one of the threads, and I'm afraid I couldn't find the post where she'd said it, but I a bit love her for it, and she pointed out that at the moment Canada, the Canadian dollar, is basically taking a bit of a pummeling in the exchange rate because of the global price of oil, which means it's super cheap to get yarn from Canada at the moment, and Scrumptious Pearl is currently in Canada. So I would definitely go and check out her yarns. She does that really cool little black gobstopper looking balls of yarn, some really great colourways and combinations, and that base is really nice to use as well. So that is Scrumptious Pearl, and it's called the Penguin Socks. It's just a basic Afterthought heel sock. I'm using Clare Devine's Afterthought heel calculator for that. I'm a little bit worried I'm not going to have enough yarn. It's got dead big feet, so I might have to engage in some vigorous discussions, negotiations to see if I can get my greasy little mitts on some more, or do a contrast heel and toe. We'll have to see. But that's the kind of on-the-go project. It's really fun. I love self-strapping yarns. I always have, because they're just really fun to knit. On the finished pile, the Lush for Beasticles. The knitting was finished quite a long time ago, and the Lush cardigan by Tin Can Knits. I knitted it for the Beast in neon pink yarn by Adriaphil Mirage. It was a 50-50 acrylic and wool, because she's going to get it filthy. It's going to need to be able to be washed and things and wear nicely. So I think the whole thing, the buttons almost cost me more than the yarn did. It's like a sub 20 quid project anyway. It was really good. I got the yarn from Fluff in Dundee, who is amazing, obviously. And I've just finished putting the gross grain ribbon on the bands, the button bands, and I hadn't sewn on the buttons yet. It was just sat in a bag. It's been there for a couple of months, which is quite ridiculous. So I've finished that this week. I put ribbon on the buttonhole side and hand darned round the holes. I was going to use my machine, but I just realised that if I waited to use my machine, it would never get done. So I did it all by hand whilst I was listening to my audiobooks. And I used the tutorial by the Knitmore girls to learn how to do the ribbon. I will put a link in the show notes. It's a video tutorial that they've done that shows you how to put the ribbons on when you're doing a cardigan, and talks about buttons and stabilising buttons and all that kind of stuff. Really useful resource, so I'll put a link to that in the show notes. That's all I've finished. I feel like I want to cast on something in a worsted Aran chunky, like a hat, probably one of Clare Devine's many hats, in either a baby alpaca chunky or the English Gentleman, or I do have some mobbly Aran from Yarns from the Plain, a grey and a blue that I've had since last February, that's been caked up for probably since then, and I haven't yet used, because there's still quite a lot of use for hats at the moment, I find. So they're definitely on my radar, and I've also promised someone a hat in the Whitfell Chunky from Eden Cottage Yarns, the 100% baby alpaca. I've promised her another lapsang hat, the most knit hat in the world. Love that pattern, by Clare Devine. And I've promised her one of those. I need to knit that too. In future knits then, I've only picked one. I'm trying to be a bit more prouder about things, and I'm restricting myself to boost my creativity at the moment. So future knits, I have just one. And it's kind of spoiling the surprise a little bit because she writes my show notes for me. But for my lovely friend LJ, I promised her I would knit her something because she's very knit-worthy. And I'm going to be knitting Frisson by Brittany Wilson. It is a paid-for pattern. It's $4.80 and it is a crescent-shaped shawl. And it's nice. It's got like large triangular lace, masculine lace triangles along the bottom of the shawl that makes it look a little bit like Hitchhiker, but with much bigger teeth, if you will. And then on the top end of the shawl, it's in between those triangles, it's all garter stitch, so it's relatively straightforward to knit. And I'm going to be knitting that in the Toilet and Trouble Allegory in Patagonicus, which is the Golden Skein colourway from Winter 2015. She really liked it, so I said I would knit something for her. I don't knit for other people generally because they don't deserve it. But she's very knit-worthy, so I said I would do one for her. And she really liked that colourway, so I was going to do a hat with it held double, but I thought it might be a little bit busy. And then I thought, actually, she wears a lot of scarves. And this shawl isn't too shawly. It's quite, that with the masculine lace, it's quite kind of, it can handle a bit of variegation in the yarn. So that is Frisson by Brittany Wilson. I've printed the pattern. I'm going to wind the yarn and going to get some knitting on. It's been really difficult actually because I was looking in my queue, not my queue, I don't use the queue as a queue, looking in my favourites and in my, I've got like 600 patterns in my Ravelry library, most of which I haven't knitted. You know, the ones like you collect when they're on a free offer, or if they do like some kind of promo, you get them, and some that I've knitted about 1,000,000 times and love, and others that I'm probably never going to knit. It's really bad. And looking at, again, I delved into the stash to have a look for a particular yarn and noticed, again, like a really inspiring range of yarns available. And I obviously I've been listening to Helen's podcast where she's talked about stash appreciation for the last month, and it's been kind of on the back of my mind to get in there and dig out some stuff and see what possibilities lie within. I think I'll do some more fantasy knits, or even just a kind of some pairings of yarns and get some suggestions of patterns from you guys, because a lot of the time you get a lot of inspiration from other people and what they're knitting, and I certainly tend to stick to my favourite designers, generally indies, because I like the way they write their patterns, and I've got a very low tolerance now after being spoiled with like Clare Devine's patterns for so long. I'm a little bit spoiled and I want everything to be as clear as she writes it. So if they're not, I get a little bit annoyed. And I tend to stick to the people I know write patterns in the way I want them written, because that's just what I want now. So it's about kind of getting stuff out and realising the potential, because I've got some amazing yarns that could be an orange mocha frappuccino shawl. I've got one in particularly in mind for that. That I could just dig out, and it, you know, it doesn't matter if it's not called orange mocha frappuccino. It's the right kind of colour, I reckon. And maybe play around with a bit of that really. So there's gonna be a knit along coming up because I'm getting yet more yarn and not missing out of stash. There's been a few calls in the group. There's been a few calls for Lush again. I am expecting some red sparkly yarn. I am gonna knit another Lush. I've got about 8 Lushes planned. I love the pattern. By Tin Can Knits, and it got me to thinking about the possibility of some sort of knit-along that is almost reliving your favourite previous knit-alongs. I really enjoyed the Lush knit-along. I know a lot of the people who've expressed an interest in knitting Lush again were part of the Lush knit-along, which was 2 years ago now. And thinking about other knit-alongs that I've been in and really enjoyed, like the Hap-along, and really not thinking that it was really my thing, but thinking, I'll give it a bash. It's something interesting. It's a new construction. I'll use a yarn that I like and not something too nature and plain, and actually really enjoyed it. And maybe there's a way to capture that essence, that idea of reliving your favourite knit-alongs, like when you wake up from a dream and you want to go back into it, like that sort of idea. But I need a clever name for it. So once I come up with a clever name for it, I'll tell you about the rules for the knit-along, which there won't be many, and hopefully you'll want to join in. So look out for that next week. I reckon I can kind of pull a comedy hashtag out of there somewhere for us all to use. So that is my knitting current and future, and it's time to wrap up the show. Well, party people, that is all we've got time for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the show, slightly different to the usual segments. Normally I like to pack a bit more learning in, but we're relaxing this week, and I've sung you songs, so hopefully you will have enjoyed that. In the meantime, I hope you will have a great week. Happy crafting, and I'll speak to you all again soon. Bye. You've been listening to the Shinybees podcast, a podcast for those who like their knitting, comedy and yarn in equally large measures. If you'd like to get in contact with me, you can do so via the blog, or on Shinybees on Ravelry, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest and Facebook. You can email me at shinybeesinfo@gmail.com. Music for this episode is provided by Music Alley, and it is Adam and the Water Boys and I Need a Drink.